We have community property. We all familiar with that term? Separate property, and we have homestead. So what's the difference between all of this? Because I'm certain at some point in your all's career you probably had the title company say, well, because it's homestead, and it's like, well, what does that mean? Or, you know, it's community property, and you get these lingos thrown at you, but why exactly is that the case? And so community property, basically by definition in Texas, is the bias is that basically anything acquired during marriage is community property. And what that means is that the husband and wife both have a right to the property, okay? That is the presumption, all right? Then separate property then by definition is any property acquired before the person got married or acquired after marriage by inheritance or gift. So mom dies, leaves the house to daughter who's married, that's daughter's house, okay? Because she inherited it while she was married, however she inherited it. Or mom's going into a nursing home, we hear that one, and she gifts the home to the daughter. Then again, that is daughter's separate property, okay? So, then we have homestead rights. Homestead rights are possessory. I can't even say that word very well, can I? They mean possession. So community property and separate property is how we title the name of a style of a property. Homestead rights have to do with, do I have a right to live here? And in Texas, out of any other state in the United States, we have what's called the strongest homestead rights. We give people a right to stay in that house. And I tell you what, these banks are hating it because they're foreclosing and they're seeing where it's a pain because of these homestead rights when it comes to what our eviction rules are and all that. What they do love is that foreclosure is very easy in Texas. So we kind of, you know, even the scales out by making it that way. But homestead rights, they arise by virtue of your living on a piece of property. They are independent of ownership status, okay? They are designed to protect family assets from forced sale and give a fresh start to a debtor. So what does all that mean? So basically, a homestead right is, I own a property, okay, and my mom comes to live with me. My mom's not on title, I own that property. But my mom lives there, okay? My mom has a homestead right. She has a right, and certain laws then get triggered of what her rights are in terms of that property and living on that property, okay? Why is that important? It's important because my mom calls that her homestead. That's where she lives, all right? It's her homestead. Well, if my mom goes on a crazy spending spree and racks up a bunch of debt, her creditors can't come and attach to her homestead, okay? So they can't come put a lien on my property because it's my mom's homestead. Does that make sense? Now, let's say I owned a piece of rental property and I leased it to Lewis. So Lewis is my tenant and he's renting this house from me, okay? And I go and get in a lot of trouble and debtors want to come after me. They can put a lien on that property that I own as a rental property, okay? Because I'm not living in there. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. However, Lewis goes and racks up a bunch of debt and that sort of thing. They can't come put a lien on my property. One, because Lewis doesn't own it, but two, because it's Lewis's homestead. Okay? So when this comes up is when you have, and people just, they can't understand this, is that where someone's signed a deed over, but they still live in the house. So we get title, you know, it's like an extended family living together, and when they bought the house, 3 of them went on title, but over time they deeded they deeded everything over to this one individual, but yet they all still live there, okay? And the title company comes in and says, well, who lives there? we need all three to still sign because they still have what we call homestead rights. They have a right to live there. Where it's most common is a husband and wife are getting a divorce, and they both live in the property. And the thought is the husband's going to move out and go find his own place. Well, then they decide, well, you know what, let's just sell it. And so they are trying to sell the property, and in part of their agreement, before they've signed anything, the wife's going to get all the proceeds from the sale. And so the husband says, well, I'll just deed over the property to you since you're going to, and then you can just handle the closing. I don't want to have anything to do with this. But the husband's still living in that property, okay? We have two issues there. One, he has homestead rights because he still lives there. And two, community property rights because they bought that house while they were married, and they now are trying to sell it while they're still legally married. The divorce must happen first.